Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today we are with the Rohrman Automotive Group here at Schaumburg Kia. And Ted, exciting conversations about the history of Rohrman Automotive Group and the future with what's ahead.
That's right. And who better than Ryan Rohrman here to help tell us about that? Also, Ricky Perez is here with us, general manager at Schaumburg Kia, and Nick Ruffolo, fixed operations as well. So, gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thanks, man.
Sarah, first question I had is for Ryan. Brian, Rohrman Automotive Group has a strong legacy in this industry. What principles established early on still guide the organization?
Yeah, so my grandfather started out in 1963, and then he franchised with Toyota in 1968. So the Rohrman Automotive Group were into that 60-year plus legacy, right? And so that makes me a third-gen car guy, and so much of who we are is really based on the foundation that my grandfather laid for us. And I got the privilege of working alongside of him in this market for about 15 years. And I still remember, so I shared earlier that this was the first, so I have a lot of weird car experience, but selling new cars, 2005, here at 750 East Off Road, the new Schaumburg Kia, but it was Schaumburg Honda back then. And I was living with my grandfather at the time, and I was nervous. I was 21, and I had never sold new cars before. And I think you could tell, but my grandfather was not a handout guy. He was, school, you guys laughed, school of hard knocks, one of 11, he was one of 11 kids. Oh, wow. His dad passed away when he was young. So this interesting story there, right? So he looked at me when I was coming to Schaumburg Honda, my first day selling cars, and he goes, "Are you nervous?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You don't need to be." And I said, Easy to say when you're Bob Roaring, right?" And he goes, because I always thought like, hey, my grandfather's going to teach me like the tricks, right? And how to sell cars and stuff. And I realized there is no tricks. He looked at me and he goes, "If you fall in love with a customer, we'll buy a car for." And that's how I walked out of his house that morning, thinking to myself, that's terrible. That's
not what I was looking for.
That's not what I was looking for.
But that's not what I was looking for.
So that's not at the time I was like, what does that even mean? But I found out, and that's still true to this day. Of course, like if you love our customers, they're going to love doing business with us. And then from my position today, I think, and you guys as well, if you love your employees, it's going to make it easier for them to love their customers. And it's this big, it's this big ecosystem of, when it's you before me, things work out a lot better, and I don't know. I think that is one of the things that he taught me amongst many things. The other thing that he taught me, and we still do this today, is we never ask anyone to do anything that we're not willing to do ourselves. I think that's huge inside of this industry. Like, I know that Ricky knows how to use every tool that we have at this dealership because we train and we preach on it. I know that Nick knows how to use everything inside of fixed ops and I also hold myself accountable to the same thing. He might be better at it, but I can log in and use every tool that we have, because at the end of the day, I just think it's a miss. And my grandfather was the same way. If we say, "I expect you to do this," and if not that anyone ever asked this question, but like, "Well, can you do it?" I think you should be able to stand tall and proud and be like, "Absolutely, heck yeah." Why aren't you doing?
Nick, I've also learned from the short time of Ryan that if we need somebody with fixed operations experience in the shop, that we've got just the man to have.
Oh, yeah. I have 100% confidence. I could go change oil in a heartbeat.
Yes.
I've done hundreds of oil changes. So yeah.
Well, and Ricky, you've seen all of this evolution.
Yes.
From the early
Yes. We were also chief or founder was the first Kia store in a lot.
That's right.
So we've also involved with the brand, overall staying. Yeah. Just really nice.
I mean, that was one thing about my grandfather, that's a good point. Like, he was very innovative. Like, we have 3 Kia dealerships, 2 in Indiana and 1 here. And almost all of our dealer numbers are 00 1, 6, and 9, I believe what they are. Meaning we were the first Kia dealer in the state of Illinois, and I was number 6. Well, I should say my grandfather's number 6, number 9 in the state of Indiana. And that means something because he took a risk. Kia today is worth a lot. Kia in the 90s, not so much. Well, what does that even mean? Like, think of the other brands, like Daewoo was right there too. So like, we had Daewoo, Suzuki, we had Isuzu, and Kia, Saturn, yes, all those things. I mean, at one time we had over 40 stores, and like some of those went away, so they don't always work out. But he was always innovating and willing to take that risk. And when it works out, it looks like this. Like 30 plus years later, you get to build one of the largest Kia dealerships in the country. And, we could have made it bigger. And we would have, it doesn't mean we sell more cars, but we can hold more people, right? And that's what we want to do. But it's not necessary, but the brand deserves it because of where it's come. But it all took that risk, that innovative mindset of, and we still do it today. Whether it's, how do we incorporate artificial intelligence into service and into parts and into sales, into accounting practices? What's too far, right? Like, what does it look like for our employees to come alongside and work with innovation? So he established that, and then I always like to say that my grandfather, he built a really solid foundation for us to then come, like if we built this house on a bad foundation, it's gone, right? But he didn't. He gave it to us. And so that leads us forward into today. Yeah.
It's an incredible story, Ryan. And, as the next chapter of Rohrman Automotive Group unfolds, and as you look ahead, I'd love to get your perspective and then Nick and Ricky's as well. What excites you most about what's coming next for Rohrman Automotive Group?
Oh man, what excites me next about the Rohrman Automotive Group? I think it's growing people. Honestly, it's we know we can do more, but we have. I think a lot of dealers like, the top 150 just came out like 3 days ago. We moved up 10 spots from last year, so we hit number 50 this year on the list. And we did that while actually we gave away an Infinity store back to the manufacturer and a Genesis store back to the manufacturer. So we actually shrunk our footprint and grew 10 spots. And that's a people thing. There's a lot of folks that grew on that list. Not all, they'll lie. They grew because they added franchises. And that's great. But more is not always more. It's more of something, but it's not maybe always more of what you want. And so I think that as we grow, like even this store, like Ricky has the vision, right, Ricky, to be the number 1 Kia store in the Midwest. And you know what? You can do it. And that's the goal. I mean, that's the goal. Like, we have a big Honda store right down the riff. We want to be number 1, and Chicago is a great market. You can actually deep, and so it's people and process drives everything forward. So I'm excited about that. Like, will we grow with franchises? Sure. I mean, like, we're always looking, to grow and expand, but more importantly, it's people. Because if you just buy another store and you don't have people to grow into it, it's just more headaches, not dollars, but also. Ricky, your thoughts?
I honestly believe that Chamber Kia is going to become the number 1 Kia store, hopefully in the land. The land. We were kind of on our way there for COVID. We had kind of stabilized things. Then we went into construction, so we haven't seen our seat. We've been in here since January 15th. Every month, we want more and more fixed apps. That's already the leaders in the Midwest, and set an all-time record last fall. We don't know what to see. So it's just that's exciting, Chris. The fun part, future is incredibly bright.
And I'm almost afraid to ask you what excites you most.
Inside the car business. In all honesty, I mean, from when my role changed in the rebranding and the restructure of our organization, we've made so many headways in the fixed operations part, from the stores all hitting CSI, the growth of our hours per row, the effectiveness of our labor rate, and holding more gross, and that's all great stuff. Yeah. But we got to this level, and I think we just finally got, I would call that at ground zero almost now, because we are performing at a level higher than most. My mine is like, okay, what's next? And I think it's just growing to that next level, and our team that surrounds us, that houses us to get to that level, sharing their time with the Rohrman Group and bringing their people in to buy cars or service or even coming here to work too. So, a kind of growth almost like osmosis. So, I don't know if I could put it that way, but I think so. Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We've learned a lot. Sarah, it was very enjoyable.
It's incredible to be here to hear the history and then look ahead at the future, Ted.
Sarah, Vantine, and I are here. We will be right back.